Hello again, and welcome back to another daily technical analysis video. Today we'll be covering an analysis on Ethereum. We're going to work our ways from the weekly time frames all the way down to the 4-hour time frames. Now, based on the last week, we were looking to see whether we did get a closure above the $2,600 to be confirming a double bottom, but we did not get that. So as of right now, we could pay attention to that for this week, but nothing is confirming because we still got a long 5 days to see what is up with the price action here today. We did get a slight lower closure with this candle right here below the low right here at 2,500. So it could be a continuation to the downside. That would be considered a lower low, given that we are downtrending for a while now since the weekly, and we had that beautiful break and retest of the weekly pivot. So we could see more towards the downside. When we look at our EMAs, we did get that 1055 cross, so the 10 white EMA crossing down the 55 yellow EMA. So this could suggest a retest even at that the 10 EMA for more towards the downside. If we did go down, we could see that weekly S1 in confluence with the 200 red EMA as a level to be tested. One thing that is critical as well is that if we did play something, we could do something like this, where we aim all the way down here, right, as a retest of that 10 EMA. This is something I would do, and again, this is not financial advice, so it is up to you and tread carefully. But as of right now, if we did get a closure here, we want to be careful for that double bottom. Now, our momentum is towards the downside with the RSI below this 50 moving average blue, and so we are still pressuring towards the downside. So more things on the weekly are still towards the downside, but we do see a potential. If we do get that closure higher on the candles, we could see a bullish divergence, rising stochastics with a slight decline in price, or even just a flat one. It could be just a little bit of a weak bullish divergence, but it's also a confirmation of a potential double bottom, but that we will review again in the next 5 days. Anyways, now we go back to the daily time frames. We did see that 55 yellow cross down the 377 EMA blue, so we could see more towards the downside as this is more pressure, because the EMAs are siding towards a 4 o'clock and they can potentially diverge away towards there. Especially with this new crossover occurring, we could see more of a bearish direction. Now, obviously we have been in that downtrend, and we still are, even in the small little area that potentially looks like a pennant as well. So we are on the bottom right now, and we could see a bounce all the way up to 2,800 and find the resistance under the HP before going back down. But we can do targetings based off of previous impulse, and this is a continuation pattern. But keep in mind that this does actually look like a symmetrical triangle instead. So typically it is a continuation down, but if we do see that break, we want to pay attention to it as a bottoming pattern, because sometimes it does do that, especially with crypto. Now, our momentum is towards the downside for the stochastics, so it is in that bearish territory, which could strengthen the bears if it were to decline. Now, we do notice that we have been trading in this pattern as well for the RSI, so it's kind of more like a sideways market right now, though it is a pretty volatile range. We do want to pay attention to whether there is breakouts to either direction, or watch the reactions to these levels of resistance and support. As of right now, because it's so choppy in and out, I wouldn't say much about whether it mattered whether the RSI was above the 50 EMA or below it, because it's been choppy and giving false signals. So I would be waiting for this pattern to play out. We are close. We're close, because typically the patterns play out for at least 70%. So we could see until March 23rd, 22nd before something does happen at this time. Obviously, we are towards the downside, and we're choppy sideways right now. Right now, we want to pay attention. Actually, there's not much to say about that. We could be finding that support off of this bottom trend line and the S1. So again, rising right now is still a possibility to up here, but obviously you'd have to tread carefully to see what happens next. So if we look at the 4-hour, let's see what we got here. Obviously it's been very tight range here. It's been just sideways, moving sideways for quite some time. Could be some sort of uncertainty in the markets, especially the traditional markets, given that, well, everything is dumping and we have the Ukraine war going on. The economy's not very good. That could be pertaining to this sideways move. Now, our momentum is a bit more bullish on the 4-hour. It's sticking to above the 50 EMA and rising above the 50 zone. Same goes for the stochastics, which is rising and diverging as well, which would add confidence to the upside. But do keep in mind that our pivots are going downward, so we are still generally in the downtrend. Obviously, the market has been in a downtrend, so that makes sense. And the EMAs are towards the downside too. So even though the momentum is rising and the price action as well, we want to pay attention to the general idea of it going towards the downside. As of right now, because of these two signals, you could play lower time frame longs, even towards the 200 red EMA or the R1, the HR1. But do keep in mind, if we do continue to go up, this 377 EMA lines up perfectly with that triangle top. So we do see that as a very critical level of resistance. As of right now, we could see that rise, which we were discussing, but the 55 could be resistance. Now, if we do see, I don't really see much of a range. Like at first, you might see this as a another triangle, right here and here, but it seems a little bit choppy and like not really respecting the tops and the bottoms. Like even though we reject it here, you would typically find it to hit at least a bit lower. So it's a bit weird, and there's just outlier here, so we can't just drag out that line. Now, if you did play that and we watch for the next 3 hours, we want to see whether we do close above. But as of right now, we still got 3 hours, so it doesn't really say much with this price being above that level right now. One thing that you do want to be wary about is potentially this 4-hour uptrend, 1, 2, and 3, and it's still going up. But we would need closures to confirm that. If we do close above the HP, I could see that retest of it before we do rise to the upside. So the micro time frames, which is the lower time frames, does look a bit more bullish, right? Although the EMAs are looming over, it's a bit more bullish. 55 cross, 1055 cross, so and the closure above the 200. So we could see retest of the 200 all the way up to the 377. So the short term, obviously we could see potential rises, but again, at the daily time frame and the longer time frames, we are looking for this range here, and we're going to play breakouts if that does happen, but that's in a while. So that's it for this video. I hope you learned something from it. Please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more videos like this one. Cheers.